Hello, everybody, and welcome to another panel, a part of Broccolicon. My name is Brandon Pankey. I work for Live Nation Urban, and I'm excited to moderate this panel that discusses the intersection between popular culture and activism. We have some amazing panelists today that's going to be discussing, and we'll go deep into the topic. Super excited to get going. Our panelists are Ashley Henderson from League 22, Jay CURLEY from Ben & Jerry's, Victoria Fortune from Global Citizen, and Brandon STIX Salam Bailey. Excited to have all four of you here. Thank you so much. If we can, I would like to just go and just give a brief background for everybody so everyone knows who you are and what you do on your day-to-day. And Ashley, I'll start with you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Brandon. Excited to be here. Ashley Henderson, I'm a Howard University alum, Los Angeles native. I run and operate League 22, which is a creative events agency. We specialize in brand experiences, event production and execution. And some of our clients range from Nike, BeautyCon, YouTube, and Estee Lauder.
Awesome. Jay?
Hi all, my name's Jay CURLEY. I work at Ben & Jerry's, been here over a decade now and up in Vermont. A lot of people know Ben & Jerry's for our ice cream. I think in a good way, more and more people are learning that, at our heart, we aspire to be a social justice company, and we aspire to use our place in culture to help grow and support movements. Been working hard at that for a while. I think my job in particular is a blend, and I'm about 1/3 ice cream marketer, which is what you would expect. 1/3 is much more like a digital storyteller, and the last third is more like an activist campaign manager.
Awesome. Victoria?
Hello everyone, I'm Victoria Fortune. I'm also a Howard alum. Like Ashley, I work at Global Citizen as the Director of Cultural Engagement. For those that don't know, Global Citizen is an advocacy organization working to end extreme poverty around the world. And we do that by leveraging the most influential voices in pop culture, sports, and business in order to change policies. So I'm happy to be back at Broccolicon year 2 for me. And thank you for having me.
Awesome. Then we'll end with Brandon, AKA Watts.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Everybody can refer to me as Watts STIX, or whatever is comfortable for everybody. I'm born and raised in Watts, California. Think Watts is my company, and Think Watts Foundation is the nonprofit. And I guess on the entertainment side, I've been a performing artist for over 10, 15 years, touring with the likes of Snoop Dogg, the Kendrick and J-Rocks of the world. But on the nonprofit side, we've partnered with the Los Angeles Clippers, LAFC, MLS, Los Angeles Rams, and various other organizations to build over 13 outdoor basketball courts, implement programs like financial literacy and entrepreneurship, as well as developing consistent community outreach food restoration projects by donating to over 10,000 residents inside the Watts community.
That's amazing, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. Let's jump right in. And I want to start with Victoria, actually, because I know what Global Citizen does as an organization. So I know all the work that you do. But do you think it's even important for celebrities and popular figures to even involve themselves in social activism? If so, why do you think it's important?
I think everyone should be involved in social activism. Whether or not we look to them for it, it gets very tricky, because I think what people sometimes tend to forget about celebrities, athletes, basketball, whoever is in the public limelight is that they're human beings. So the same emotions that we're dealing with, the trauma that we're dealing with, the anxiety that we're dealing with during this time, COVID, and our fight for racial justice, they're also processing. So we have to give them some grace. I think who we should be holding accountable and looking to for answers is our local officials. I think it's really important that we get engaged in politics now than ever. And so I think we should give celebrities some grace during this time. I do think that the celebrities that do have the platform should make it a mission to learn about what's happening and be a little agile and flexible in utilizing their voice the best they can. But should we be looking to them to do this? I don't think it should be an obligation.
Jay, what are your thoughts? Because I saw what Ben & Jerry did, and I thought it was phenomenal. It was a step above, some of the other corporations who said, I'll throw money at this and that's my activism. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think brands have a place and help to shape pop culture. And so they have a responsibility to be showing up in these times. It's good to see more organizations showing up, but philanthropy isn't activism. Giving money to charities is important, and we should all be doing that. But businesses can't be funding charities in one room, and lobbying against the interests of marginalized communities in another, right? And I'll give businesses a credit that most of them aren't actively lobbying against marginalized communities, but they are lobbying in their own self-interest and therefore leaving people behind. And that's what's needed, right? And I think that for celebrities to not engage, I think is a real personal choice and is really up to them. They shouldn't be forced into something if they're not ready for it. But for businesses, they're already an active role. They just have to recognize the role they're playing, right? And if they are not actively working to fix the racial justice issues we have in our society, then they are perpetuating the status quo, right? And so I think in a good way, in the last month, we've seen many businesses wake up to the need that they need to be paying more attention to this. And I am very hopeful they're going to take the continued steps to go beyond just philanthropy, which is of course important and needed, but is one part of the process.
Gotcha. Let me ask Ashley, I know you run League 22, you are curating events, you are managing events. Have you seen brands or more brands approach you since everything that's occurred over the past, 30 to 60 days? And if so, what are they asking you to do? How has that changed, your scope of your career over the past 2 months?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I will say that prior to the past 30 to 60 days, League 22 has been able to execute events more so for the diversity initiative per se, right? So like we were able to activate with Nike during Black History Month, with H&M during Black History Month. So of course, they'll bring us on and look for those diversity or multicultural agencies to execute their programming or mission for Black History, right? So I think now is the opportunity for these brands and companies to really step outside of February, step outside of the month of February, to really figure out and really understand and educate themselves, like how can we push this narrative beyond February? How can we push it? How can we integrate it into our regular programming? And so, yes, we have been approached by different brands. We have been approached by different, corporations that are, willing and ready to activate and to really put the culture where it needs to be. And, I think that it's important for agencies like us to really help them and to really educate them and to be a partner. But I just hope that it continues. I hope it's not just, let's do it for right now, right? I hope it's not just, okay, we're throwing all these dollars at it, but are you just checking a box? Because it's more than just checking a box. So I think that we'll see a lot more diversity agencies coming into play and being able to activate and being able to really use their voice and their platform to perpetuate what's happening right now.
Yeah, that's been my biggest fear is the level of authenticity from all brands that are associated with this. To your point and to Jay's point, you cannot say I'm giving you money and say I've done my job in helping with equality in a country that has dealt with inequality for 401 years. So I'm not a panelist, so let me hush up. But no, Watts, I want to come to you, brother. So, I think the work that you've done with Think Watts and the Think Watts Foundation has been phenomenal. This is not new. What's been happening and what we've seen in the media is not new at all. It's happened before Trayvon Martin, before we started to really pick up on what's been going on, but it seemed to sort of hit a peak with George Floyd. How have you seen social media activism change, over the course of even the past 10 years? Because it just feels different right now than it has felt.
Right, exactly. I think I'll start with Will Smith made a comment, and I'm going to paraphrase. He said, "It's not that it's not that it's happening more. It's just being documented." You know, and because of the social media age, we're in what I like to call the era of we can see. Basically, we can see everything. And for those out there who are heavy in branding, go ahead. Let's talk about that after. No, but the we can see era, basically everyone is able to witness the public lynchings. They're able to witness what's happening to the Black community more often versus years ago, let's say 10, 15 years ago, when social media was relatively not a new thing, but it wasn't a core use of communication. We are starting to witness all of these atrocities. And so now what it has done, it has created and developed social activists. You know, individuals who may not be able to stand on a street corner like, you know, Malcolm X is of our times, or Martin Luther King, how he was able to mobilize, you know, and advocate in the areas that he advocated for. But now we have people who have a passion to create some type of change. So they use their social media to bring awareness. Let's look at, I think, one of the most profound and most impactful social activist is Shaun King. Shaun King, I didn't know who Shaun King was ever until social media introduced me to Shaun King. And Shaun King has been using his voice, and I think he's been extremely impactful on social media, building an audience to where he's able to push the message out to millions of people, which from there it spreads to the mass. So I've definitely seen changes in the way activism has impacted just on social media and was able to spread publicly.
Got you. This is an open forum question for anyone to answer. Do you see any pitfalls between this intersection? Pitfalls of being an activist, whether it's social activism or on the front lines? What are those pitfalls from a brand perspective, from an individual, I am going to go out and be an activist? You know, what are those pitfalls that you may or may not see? And this is for
I want to jump in on that really fast because we've made a few comments that kind of led to this question, that kind of ties into this question. Mm-hmm. I think the pitfalls are when there's a message or that's not aligned, things tend to get clouded, and we start to lose sight of actual solutions of what can actually help. And I'm just going to speak primarily for the Black community. There's a certain thing said that maybe we shouldn't throw, like I agree in a sense where we shouldn't throw money at organizations. I 1000% agree that don't align cohesively with affecting the Black community. But we definitely need to address the financial inequities in the Black community. And until we address the financial inequities in the Black community, this will forever and ever continue to repeat itself. And what I mean by that, there's a gentleman by the name of Robert Smith that is 2%. It's a new 2% rule where you take 2% of the top 10 banks of their net income and put that into a pool, and that pool over the next 10 years can fund the Black economy. Mm-hmm. That is the type of conversation that needs to exist more, I think, more than ever. And that's just my perspective and my opinion, because as we see, if you, in America, I'm just talking about America, if you cannot compete financially, you have no voice. I don't care how big of a social activist you become, you may be able to rally the people, but in order to affect legislative change, in order to get the decisions made that you need that affects your community, you will need to lobby and get those people to represent your best interest. But not only that, and I'll shut up to give somebody else a time to talk, I apologize, but with the financial equities in the community, we could then build stronger economies in regards to banking, in regards to businesses, in regards to ownership, in regards to all of these various different variables that will produce an economy that could only be positive. So I just feel like the only pitfalls is if we're not all having the same conversation or having conversations that align together, like we should be talking about this, and this, and
right.
then and other people are saying we should only do this and not this, and I think that's where we start to see possible negative effects.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to jump in on this one?
I'll jump in.
Okay.
I'll say that one of the pitfalls during this time, I think, is pointing the finger, right? Is playing like the blame game. I think, to your point, Watts, in the Black community, where everybody expresses their level of activism differently, right? So. Right. Like, for example, Beyonce came out with the song, I think it's Black Parade. And then like Lil Baby came out with the song, or we'll have another, leader, lead a protest. So I think there's different ways that everybody protests, and there's different ways that everybody expresses themselves or supports this movement. But I think a lot of times with social media, our community, we're pointing the finger like, oh, why didn't you speak up? Or why didn't you say anything? Or you're obligated to use your platform. And I think that's what hinders us. That's what keeps us back. And it's like, let's be solution oriented. Let's focus on one message. How can we be aligned? So I think we got to stop pointing the finger on who's not doing enough, because people may be doing something silently that we don't know about, And I think a lot of times, to the first question that you asked, is that like we put these leaders and entertainers on a pedestal, and we're expecting them to, do it the way that we want them to do it. When it's like, can we look at ourselves and make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do locally? Because then if we're doing what we're supposed to do locally, and we're, if you're able and willing to be able to, donate to a charity or donate to a program that's, helping social justice in your community, I think that's what's gonna, lead us to the bigger picture.
And to your point, Ashley, I think activism looks different for everyone. Everyone's not going to protest, but for me, what's been really strong is having these Zoom calls with friends and hearing them speak up in their places of employment. I think that's been pivotal. Having white allies come, that are within these institutions that are very powerful, come out and say something has to change. I think that in itself is also activism. Not everyone's going to protest. Not everyone's going to post on social media. I think it has to really also start in these small siloed communities.
Agreed.
I want to touch on that a little bit, Victoria, and what you said, Ashley. When I think about what happened with George Floyd, and I think about the reaction from others, how, we saw white allies, how more people mobilized and came together. It was really powerful, and it was really, beautiful to see. But on the flip side, what I noticed, particularly with Black women, with the LGBT community, when, Breonna Taylor did not get nearly as much attention. When we're talking about Black trans, there was a Tony McDade in Tallahassee who died, unfortunately. Why does it seem to be a limit or a certain threshold when it comes to activism in popular culture? And this is an open forum question as well.
Tough one. I think Malcolm X said it best a while ago, when he said that Black women are the most disrespected, human beings, and I'm paraphrasing, in the world. I have noticed that as well. Breonna Taylor is not getting the same attention that George Floyd got, and as a Black woman, it is pretty heartbreaking. I think it just stems back to history. I mean, it just stems back to how people are used to treating us, and I think that definitely has to change. I don't have a direct answer, but I'm happy to hear what everyone else has to say about it.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that these movements and these models of oppression are very intersectional, right? As it relates to racial justice and women's rights and trans rights, right? And I think that one of the best things we can do as an activist community is ensure we're not leaving anyone behind, right? And I think that, you often see this in company cultures where there'll be a women's leadership initiative or a racial diversity initiative. And I think it's important for organizations and for us as a culture to really look and say, all right, how are we gonna raise all boats, and do it in a way that is inviting and be open to learning, to be open to understand, shit, I left that out. I wasn't thinking about that 2 months ago, 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago, and own up to that and move forward,
Ashley, you had a comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna jump in regards to the coverage on Breonna Taylor. I think as it relates to history, I think Black women, we're expected to do it all, right? Like we're expected to be, the strength of the family, take care of the household. We're expected to be able to go through, any and everything and to come out on top and come out strong. So I think sometimes we, as a Black community too, we need to take a step back and we need to really push our Black men to really protect us and figure out ways to support us because it's much needed. We're not superheroes, we can't do it all. So I think to that point is that not saying that, she was overlooked, but I think that, seeing the video footage of George Floyd with the police officer's knee in his neck, I think that kind of drove a little bit, a little bit more for people to really get involved because they saw the injustice with their own eyes. And of course, we didn't see what happened. We didn't see the video footage of what happened with Breonna Taylor, but I think sometimes people need that visual effect so that they know this is really happening. And I know that because, we've never had this much support from our white allies, from these brands, from these corporations. I think enough is enough, and people are able to see that on TV.
Gotcha. We are already almost out of time, actually. So I want to end this panel with one question, and it's really taking everything that we said and really moving forward. How do we move forward in this new climate, in this new world, as activists, as human beings? What do you see is coming in the future, from an activism perspective? And I'll start with you, Ashley, and then go down the line.
I would say just to remain solution focused, not to cancel culture, because I think that is really counterproductive. I think it's our time to educate. It's our time to learn, both parties, both sides, right? All communities. So I think it's really just focusing in on the solution and finding ways, figuring out, being strategic, being aligned with the same messaging. But I think that if we just remain focused on the bigger picture, on the goal, and true partnership, authentic partnership, I think we'll be, and continuing this momentum. Let's keep it up. I want to be able, I think on social media it said, if your timeline has gone back to normal, shake it up. So we have to continue to shake it up because I want to be able to have the same conversation in July of 2021 and to say, okay, within this year span, this is what we've done. These are what these corporations have done. I want to see the results. And I know it's not going to happen overnight, but we should still be looking and following up with these people and following up with these brands and corporations that have thrown money at this.
I agree. Jay?
I'll kind of speak, I guess, to any business leaders out there, any folks running brands, and I'd say two things. First and foremost is don't come up with your own solutions. Follow the lead of the grassroots activists doing this work. The great news is you don't have to come up with the solution. You need to support the people who have come up with the solutions and help to raise their voices up and their work up. And the second thing is this is hard work. Dig in. You're gonna trip, you're gonna fall, at least from a Ben & Jerry's perspective. We don't get this all right. Perfection is never gonna come, but keep moving forward, keep trying.
Cool. Watts?
As I unmute myself, I love what everybody have shared today, and I'm just honored to be on a panel with all of the individuals involved that show passion towards solutions. And I think that's the number one thing we have to focus on. We have movies, we have songs, we have social media to hear what the problem is. We know what the problem is. We've heard the problem over 400 years and even beyond that. We know all of the people who are being affected by the problem. Now let's all focus on solutions and identifying a course of action on which solutions we tackle first, second, third, fourth, whatever, however many solutions there need to be. And I will lastly conclude with this. I agree wholeheartedly that we need women to lead the charge and we need men to support that charge, because women are far more organized. They're far more skilled with management. They are way more attentive to detail. And you need those things in order to execute. Without those variables, it is impossible to execute a massive plan. And we're talking about something that can change the lives of individuals for forever. So I think we need to strongly and sincerely get behind those women who are taking the charge, who are leading us to victory. And us as men need to enhance that charge, get behind that charge, support that charge, allow our creativity to add to that charge, but come together and force the change.
Agreed 1,000%. And Victoria, end with you.
I think first and foremost, we need to vote. I think this is an election year. Now more than ever, we have to get this man out of office. So I think we need to make sure that we're registered to vote, make sure we know the rules around voting. I think LeBron has launched an amazing campaign that addresses voter suppression. I think we need to get informed who we're electing. We need to get informed on the policies that exist, the policies that need to be changed. I also think we need to hold people accountable. If these businesses and these corporations are putting out these statements, we need to follow up in 6 months and see if they're actually staying true to what they put out. Last but not least, I think we need to buy Black, support Black, dump all of our, the money that we do have to spend outside of our obligations. We need to spend it on, organizations that are building, products for all of us, but that are Black owned. And then I actually have one more. I think we need to start calling people out. I think it's very important that we call people out on their BS. We start addressing the racism that exists within the companies that we work for, wherever we are. I think it's very important that we stop being kind of, afraid of making people feel uncomfortable. I think now is the perfect time for people to feel a little bit uncomfortable.
I agree. And I will end in saying the time for symbolic gestures and symbolic wins are over. I think we need to have actionable steps and really move into ending a lot of these disparities that are in America between Black Americans and other groups. So that's economic equality and educational equality and healthcare and everything else. And to your point, Victoria, it's time to vote. Whenweallvote.org, even though I don't work for them, they will help to register new voters. So please, let's really try to make an impact. And I'm really appreciative of all of the panelists today. Ashley Henderson from League 22. Thank you. Jay Curley from Ben & Jerry's. Thank you. Brandon Watts, Salam Bailey. Thank you. And Victoria Fortune. And Brandon, I'm sorry, I did a second time, from Think Watts and Think Watts Foundation, because the work you're doing is great. So I apologize, brother. And Victoria Fortune from Global Citizen. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Let's hear it for Kansas City Monarch legend Jim Robinson.
Celebrate your history together. The all-new Highlander. Toyota, let's go places.